welcome once again to the latest edition of Valle United FC podcast. With me, I have two very special guests. I have Adrian and I have Danny, head coach and associate head coach of the team. Así como lo escucharon, el nuevo equipo de Arizona, Valle United FC. Aquí los vamos a conocer el entrenador y el entrenador asociado. Adrian y Danny, bienvenido. Welcome, guys. I would let you guys introduce yourselves. Where are you from? And what brought you to Arizona to this project right here, Valle United?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to represent this new franchise and hoping for some big things. I'm originally from New York, born and raised, and came out here about a year ago. I was talking to Marcelo about a possibility to start a new project out here, and came out, loved it, loved being an Arizona resident now. So happy to be here, and it's been fun. It's been a great year so far, and we're hoping for even bigger and better things.
All right. And Danny, associate head coach, correct?
Yeah, it's associate coach. It's just like an assistant with some kind of power to work on the field, but it's great to be working with Adrian right now.
All right. And where are you from originally?
I'm from Venezuela originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Entonces, de Venezuela y de Nueva York. So how long have you guys been in Arizona, living in Arizona?
So I've been here for about a year. A little over a year.
Used to it, or?
Yeah. It's obviously a lot different than living in New York.
How was that first summer?
Yeah, it was tough. It was there was a lot of things we were battling with. Obviously, the whole pandemic, the COVID, and restrictions and stuff. But when you walked outside at around 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you turned around and walked right back inside again. But you get used to it, and obviously the lifestyle here is very casual. It's very laid back and very healthy. So it was easy to get used to.
A little bit less than that hustle and bustle kind of shoulder-to-shoulder New York lifestyle, correct?
Yeah, whether it's New York or even where Danny's from in Caracas, the big cities, and there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people, and everybody's in a hurry, and if you don't watch out, they'll just run right over you. So it was a breath of fresh air, that's for sure.
Okay, and Danny, what brought you from Venezuela over here? Like, how long have you been living in the United States and Arizona?
Well, I've been here since January. I was supposed to be here in June of last year, but with the pandemic, it was very difficult to leave Venezuela. And then Adrian, he called me for the playoff, and I came here, and it was a nice satisfaction because we made the finals, and it was a great opportunity for me, and I'm really grateful with Adrian, to have this opportunity in Arizona.
Now, it is my understanding that this is not the first time you've worked together, or is it the first time you guys have worked together?
No, well, first of all, we've known each other from New York days. Danny went to school at LIU, which is a university in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I was living in New York at the time. We didn't have a chance to play together, but he played for my dad, who was his coach at the time. And then I obviously got involved in the coaching circle at a pretty young age. I just turned 30, and I was offered my first professional team job.
Oh, wow.
And Danny was one of the first players that actually I signed to play for our team in New York. So we have a long history, and we go way back.
Okay, so 30. So 2 years ago is when you got your first.
Well, actually, my birthday's tomorrow, so I'll be 31. So yeah, it was about a year ago.
There you go. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Let's hope we get a great season as a birthday gift. So now we're preparing for the season coming up with NISA. So it's going to be early 2022, around March, I believe. So what is your prospects for this team going forward in this first year?
Yeah, so I think obviously we've had an opportunity, Danny and I and some of the staff, to watch some games currently in the season that's just about to finish up, if it's not finished already, but it's close to being over. So we've got a chance to travel, watch some of the teams play, get an idea of what the level's like, study some of the games. We've actually been able to play against some of the teams as well, which has helped us. And now it's just a question of us going through the process of trying to find players that fit into our culture, that fit into the way we want to play, that fit into the ideas that we have within the community, and hopefully find some maybe missing jewels or some talent that maybe has gone unnoticed,
like a diamond in the rough,
and try to put a team together that the community will be proud of, and hopefully to compete for a championship.
Okay. Danny, coming here from Venezuela, obviously you bring not only your experience from Venezuela, but the language. How is it when you first start speaking Spanish to everybody? Cuando habla español, que te mira, no, es nomás another, white man here, so like he's not going to know what we're talking about, y luego sacas el español. How is that with the culture here, around here?
Bueno, me ha pasado mucho. It has happened to me a lot, because my origin is from Spain. My mom was born in Europe, and my father is Brazilian, but I consider myself Venezuelan. So when I go out and I mix with the different Latin people, they think I'm, European or American, and then I start, talking or speaking Spanish, and they find out, oh, this guy is Latin, so it's a nice environment we have over here, and actually we're bilingual in the practice, and it's good to have also Adrian. He speaks perfect Spanish, so we sometimes we speak in Spanish, and sometimes we speak in English, but it's a great environment.
So what I want to know is, when the coach gets mad, cuando lo regaña, is it in English or in Spanish?
So I would say Spanglish, because I get so mad that I start mixing my words, some in Spanish, some in English.
And even inventing some Russian in there.
Yeah, I throw things that the coaches even say, well, what was that exactly what you were saying? And I say, I have no idea. But no, it's a good mix, because first of all, our whole staff is bilingual. They speak English and Spanish, which I think is important, not only for the players, but for also the people that come and want to meet us and want to talk to us. So I think it's important to be able to communicate in a couple of different languages, especially Arizona having a mix, a huge mix of Latinos and also Americans. So for us, it was important to bring in a staff that was bilingual, because I think it's important to be able to relate to all the cultures. So I think that's helped us. We've also been fortunate enough to live in Europe. I've lived there in different countries over the past 30, 35 years. And obviously Danny has as well. So we're familiar with a lot of the different cultures, whether it's Spain, whether it's Italy, whether it's France, whether it's different countries in South America, and also obviously being born and raised here in the United States, which is the biggest melting pot in the world. Exactly. We're able to kind of be able to deal with a lot of different cultures. It's very difficult for a player that comes from overseas, far away from their family, trying to learn English, different food, different time differences, and people need to take that into consideration. And it's not just, someone gets on a plane, they come here and they're able to play. There's a lot of things that come into play with it. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to live in Europe, and I know when I went there to coach, I was coaching in Spain for the last 5 years, it was difficult. It was difficult to get used to their way of life, their food, the time difference, being away from your family. It's not easy. So as coaches now, when the players come here, we're able to relate a little bit better with them and understand that maybe they're homesick, maybe they miss their wives, their girlfriends, their kids, their families, their relatives. So you have to take that into consideration when someone's having a bad day, and so on and so forth.
And you see it all the time with sports, like especially these international ones like soccer, how players move from team to team. They could say, oh yeah, just moving from Inter to Barcelona, but it's completely different being away from the family. And sometimes they could be such great players, but that homesickness and that just not feeling comfortable can affect the way they play. So it's very important to make sure the culture is welcoming, right?
Sí, te lo voy a decir en español también, para que hablemos en español y la gente que nos ve. Fíjate que hay países, hay equipos en el mundo hoy en día que trabajan con sociólogos deportivos. Estos sociólogos deportivos trabajan de la mano de los psicólogos para poder adaptar a los jugadores que vienen no solo de otros países, sino que vienen a lo mejor del farm places, o sea, de los lugares de haciendas, lugares lejanos, y llegan a la ciudad, y para poder acostumbrar a la familia, a todos, tienen que pasar por un proceso. Y lo que tú dices es real. Y no solo eso, en Estados Unidos pasa igual con el tema de los jugadores que vienen, porque otro idioma, muchas veces no hablan el idioma, y por eso que esa es la gran ventaja que creo que tenemos en este staff, que somos bilingües y podemos adaptar a estos jugadores a lo que nosotros queremos dentro del equipo.
Ok, ahora, entrando el equipo. Sé que ahorita está en preseason, están todavía agarrando jugadores, hablando con diferentes jugadores y managers. ¿Me pueden dar un porcentaje de qué tanto del roster está listo, está preparado para...?
Mira, en este momento no tenemos ningún jugador firmado o anunciado. Sí se ha llegado a acuerdos con varios jugadores, pero no estamos preparados ni dispuestos a revelar eso todavía.
Tarde o temprano van a caer y nosotros les traemos esa información aquí.
Van a ser los primeros. Para nosotros era importante el proceso. Hemos visto ya más de 300 jugadores que se han venido a probar. tenemos informe de casi todos y vamos a tomar el tiempo porque no nos queremos equivocar, entonces, y le queremos dar una oportunidad a todo el mundo para que tenga el sueño de poder venir a probarse un equipo profesional. Así que no nos queremos adelantar, queremos tomar nuestro tiempo. Nos gustaría tener el equipo formado al final de diciembre y principio de enero para poder empezar la pretemporada alrededor del 5 de enero con 21 jugadores o 24 jugadores firmados. Así que eso es el plan.
So the coaching staff has seen over 300 players. No one has been officially announced as a Valle United FC player, and it is a huge process that they want to get to make sure that you make the right decision, make sure that the players fit the culture, fit the style of playing that you want to have. And it's my understanding that you have it's a combine that's going on, so you're continuously looking at players and kind of evaluating them.
Yeah, well, number one, I could make an announcement to the first player that we have signed, but I'm not going to.
Oh, what a tease!
He's really good.
But yeah, we've had a couple of combines. We have one that's going on this weekend upcoming, which we have about 50 guys registered. We had another one in October. So, but we also have what we do is like a processing list where we have over 3,000 players on a format that we constantly look at to see if we think they'll fit into this culture, what our budget's going to be like, and the way we want to play. So we've done our due diligence. We've got a good understanding of what we're looking for and what we want, and now it's up to the higher ups to be able to bring us those players and to get these deals done.
All right, entonces ya vienen las piezas, ya las tienen figuradas, a ver quién es lo que quieren, pero antes de decidir las piezas, before you pick the players you want, you got to have a game plan. As a coach, in your past experience, what type of football do you like to do? Do you like very attacking? Do you like conservative football? Very tactical? Explain más o menos how it is that you like to see your players play.
Well, I think we want the kind of football that we win.
There you go.
So, no, obviously you have to adapt to different circumstances. For example, when you're playing in the middle of the summer here in Arizona, you have to understand the fact that it can get to 112, 115 degrees. You have to take that into consideration. So maybe if you're a team that likes to high press and put teams under pressure and play really fast, that's going to change depending on the weather. If you go to, let's say, New York in the beginning of March to play a game, it could be really cold. So you might have to adapt, the surfaces going from grass to turf, the weather conditions.
Turf is the worst. Oh my goodness.
It's difficult. It's difficult, but it's it's what we have, and they have it in a lot of countries now. So in terms of, we have to have a team that's able to adapt, and obviously we have a form of wanting to play. Sometimes when the whistle blows, that goes out the window. But we have an idea of the way we want to play, the type of players we want to bring in, and obviously it's going to be our job to be able to put that on the field. And obviously more so the assistant coaches, because if something goes wrong, I have somebody to blame. But no, I think you have to now in today's soccer, in today's football, tenés que tener un equipo que se pueda adaptar y puede cambiar, porque todos los equipos son muy buenos tácticamente, todos los entrenadores son muy buenos, así que en esos momentos hay que tener un equipo que pueda jugar y puede tener variantes para poder buscar los resultados que uno está buscando.
Hey, Danny, como associate coach, ¿también está en la banca durante los juegos o es más como entrenamientos cuando hace sus apariencias?
No, estamos juntos. Lógicamente la decisión final siempre la toma Adrian. Nosotros aportamos, en el caso mío, aporto mucho en el tema de la planificación, de los trabajos en cancha. Como él bien decía, un game plan tiene que tener un plan de juego, tiene que tener un trabajo por detrás, que es como un puzzle, es como un rompecabezas. Vas armando diferentes trabajos en tal forma de que tus jugadores sepan en cada zona del campo qué es lo que tienen que hacer en los diferentes momentos del partido. Para no entrar en detalles, porque esto hay mucha gente que a lo mejor no se va a confundir, pero hay diferentes momentos que ocurren en el partido, en ataque, defensa y las dos transiciones, y el pelota parada, que es otro momento que ocurre. Entonces todo eso se trabaja en función a unas quizás pautas o algunos requerimientos que quiere Adrian como manager, y nosotros de alguna forma siempre nos dividimos los trabajos en cancha para trabajar con defensas, ataque, y de tal forma de llevar eso al the big picture, que es lo que nosotros queremos. Lógicamente, él comentaba algo anteriormente, que estamos firmando jugadores en base a lo que queremos jugar nosotros.
Sí.
No vamos a develar exactamente cómo queremos jugar, pero sí te puedo decir que las características de los jugadores que estamos buscando tienen que ver mucho con lo que nosotros queremos como equipo.
Ahora, moviéndonos un poquito a lo que viene, porque también vamos a hablar un poquito sobre las eliminatorias mundialistas. Viene partido entre México y Estados Unidos y siempre se viene esta rivalidad, no nomás de las naciones, sino que las ligas locales. ¿Cuál es tu opinión de si la MLS ya llegó o hasta superó el fútbol mexicano en términos de táctica?
No, a ver, nos tenemos que tener en cuenta que a nivel de años, la liga de MLS es una liga nueva todavía.
Sí.
Y eso es una cosa que todo el mundo tiene que tener en cuenta. Es cierto que está acá en este país por más de 20 años, creo, pero comparado a Sudamérica, a Centroamérica, a Europa, estamos muy por detrás en la experiencia. Entonces, todavía nos falta. Es cierto que estamos achicando los espacios. Y lo bueno es que tenemos un país poderoso en el mundo del fútbol como México, que se puede aprender mucho. Y ahora cuando se ven los resultados, esos resultados están mucho más parejos que estaban hace 5 años atrás o 10 años atrás. Así que estamos haciendo pasos para adelante en este país. Pero todavía nos falta. Y lo bueno es que yo sé que además está tratando de hacer acuerdos con la Liga de México para tratar de hacer más partidos y eso nos va a ayudar a nosotros. Entonces, nos falta todavía mucho a nivel internacional, muchísimo. Yo sé que México está muy por encima de nosotros, pero otra vez lo digo, que somos un país básicamente
relativamente nuevo, sí,
en el mundo del fútbol. Así que necesitamos tiempo, necesitamos lo que tiene todos los otros países, tener su cultura y tener su forma de jugar, y a base de tener eso y la experiencia vamos a seguir mejorando.
Sí, como lo dijiste bien, hace 10 años existía lo que se le llamaba el gigante de la CONCACAF. En mi opinión, ya no existe gigante de la CONCACAF, ya los han, they've humbled Mexico plenty of times, and especially this past Gold Cup, of another final lost by Mexico, won by U.S. So then what can we expect with this upcoming game between Mexico and U.S.?
I think we look at it in these small samples, but if you go back to the last 3 or 4 World Cups, and even go back to the U20 World Cups or even the Olympics, why is Mexico always in the round of 16, Olympic gold medalist, under 20 finalist? Because they continue to do things the right way. So we have to look at that as a country and say, hey, what can we copy from them to be able to better ourselves? Because as much as you might think we're closing the gaps, we're still not getting to where Mexico's getting, where they get to a World Cup and they beat Germany. They get into the next round. They make it difficult in one of the World Cups against Holland and this and that. So
no era penal.
No era penal. Estamos de acuerdo. But, you know, those are the things. I think we can't look at it in small sizes of the Gold Cup, okay? Because we need to look at it as a country in terms of the World Cup and those type of things. So I still think they're ahead of us. Now, can we beat them in a one-game series? Yes. Anybody can beat anybody. But on that big international stage, we still need to beat a Germany like Mexico does,
or Brazil,
or compete against Argentina like they did in one World Cup where we went to overtime. And you know, those are things that Mexico has that we don't. So we're still behind them.
It's those historical figures, those historical stats that they have yet to achieve. But the U.S. has historically also beat Mexico to get into that quarterfinal spot. So I mean, so there has been that historically as well. Now, Danny, you've been from Venezuela and following the CONMEBOL. Do you think if either of these two teams were in CONMEBOL, they would stand a chance to even sniff out a World Cup?
Mira, yo sí considero que el fútbol es como una fotografía, depende del momento. Pero hoy en día, como hemos visto Argentina, Brasil, el caso de la misma Ecuador, Colombia, que Uruguay, viene creciendo mucho. Bueno, Uruguay ha tenido una caída en los últimos tiempos, pero Uruguay es Uruguay, tiene jugadores de altísimo calibre. Yo creo que todavía, lo que dice Adrián, todavía falta como un paso para poder llegar allá. Hablando de los Estados Unidos, para poder mezclar lo que estás diciendo de Conmebol, yo sí creo que ha habido un crecimiento enorme dentro del fútbol de los Estados Unidos y la llegada de un entrenador como el Tata Martino con Atlanta creo que le dio un plus muy fuerte a la liga. Lástima que no han llegado más entrenadores, sin desmeritar a los que están ahora, no han llegado más entrenadores de esa calidad para poder levantar un poquito más el nivel de la liga. Pero en lo particular creo que tienen la estructura, el dinero para poder llegar. Volviendo a Sudamérica, y no sé si Adrián quiere completar con algo, creo que lo que es Argentina, Brasil, la misma Venezuela, que es un país que anteriormente era lo que llaman el saco de boxeo de los equipos, ya hoy en día es complicado jugarle. Entonces,
sí.
La eliminatoria de Sudamérica, y lo comentábamos el otro día, y Adrián me lo comentaba, tiene unas características muy diferentes al resto de las eliminatorias. Geografías diferentes, vas a jugar a la altura, de repente juegas en el calor, de repente juegas en el frío y lógicamente la misma eliminatoria como tal es muy difícil. Entonces
sí.
Es algo que todavía le falta a esta zona de la CONCACAF.
So I'll wrap this up really quick. I think at this point, and again, not disrespecting anybody, the U.S. does not qualify if they're in Conmebol. Not even close. And the reason I say that is because the last World Cup we got knocked out in Trinidad. And I'm telling you right now, if you can't win in Trinidad, you can't win in Bolivia because you can't breathe. You can't win in Ecuador because you can't breathe. You can't win in Colombia when you're playing in the middle of the hottest part of the South America at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and there's 110 degrees. You can't win. And you're certainly not winning in the big countries. So
right.
We're way behind that. We had trouble with our players at that time, and again, no disrespect, but winning in Trinidad. Why? Because they flooded the field, because the grass was high, because the referees don't go. South America, the grass is up to above your ankles because they don't want Messi to be able to run at you.
Super heavy.
The referees, Neymar's getting elbowed off the ball. The referees say play on. All these things. Playing in South America is totally different. I would say that there's teams in Europe that are very good that would struggle to qualify in South America. And not because they're not good, but because of the way that they play there. It is so hard. The conditions, the refereeing, the cultures, it's just hard. So until we're able to run away with CONCACAF, I don't even think we can think about competing in South America because we wouldn't make it. And again,
right.
It's not disrespect, it's just the way it is. They're ahead of us, kind of like we're ahead of them in other sports. And we need to slowly close that gap, which I think we're doing. So it takes time. I would personally myself, like to see when you go back in time, the Tab Ramoses of the world, the Brian McBrides of the world, the Tony Miolas of the world, the Landon Donovans of the world, the Clint Dempseys of the world. We're not seeing enough of those kind of players. Those guys were warriors. They found ways to win. They were tough. They didn't get intimidated. I'm not seeing that right now. So sometimes, I had an opportunity to sit down with a national team coach from Argentina years ago, and he was sitting around a whole bunch of reporters at a restaurant, and they asked him, why are you guys not playing well? And he said, I don't have to play well. I just need to qualify. Once I qualify for the World Cup, which is the hardest thing to do in South America, then I can worry about playing well when I get to the World Cup. But I just got to qualify.
Just get there.
So we just got to qualify.
But one thing that is very important, and this is something I want to stand out, is that there is a new generation of ex-players that are now becoming sporting directors, coaches, and that will help the U.S. to grow up faster. And like Adrian, he played in the national team, now he's coaching. So I think that was the United States was needing. People that really had the experience at a high level now working as on those positions.
Behind the scenes.
Scenes. And I think in the next 10 years, if they do the things the right way, United States will be a very powerful country in soccer.
Well, let's speak on that a little bit because we see a perfect example. Landon Donovan, Captain America, the heart and soul of the national team, now a head coach at San Diego. To be given that opportunity in, even if many people consider it a developing league, but he is a head coach without having to have put in more years. How do you think that kind of player mentality fits into a soccer culture?
So look, I understand people's points where they don't have experience, but at the end of the day, whether it's Landon Donovan, whether it's Tony Meola, whether it's Tab Ramos, who I say to this day, Tab Ramos is, if not the greatest American player to ever play, one of. And Landon's up there as well, just like Tony's up there as well. These people have earned the right to coach. They've earned the right for everything that they've done for this sport in this country. They've earned the right to have the experience on the fly. And we as a federation or we as a country should give them those opportunities.
Okay.
The problem is in this country, a lot of times, we think that outside of this country is always better than what's inside this country. And this is one of the credits I always give to Argentina, not because it's my parents' native land and because I feel a passion for it, but you don't see anybody else coaching the Argentinian national team but an Argentinian coach. And the coaches in Argentina in first division, 99% are Argentinian because they're giving those guys that experience. And that's important because we need to not only develop the players, but we need to develop our coaches as well. So to me, when I see a Tab Ramos coaching the MLS, when I see a Landon Donovan coaching in the USL, when I see even though he's not American, I consider him American because he's been here for a long time, a Giovanni Savarese, or a Tony Meola, or a Marcelo Balboa. This is what has built soccer in this country. Those guys feel a passion for this.
Right.
Okay, so I would say those are the guys that are important to surround this game because they have a passion for this country and they know how to deal with the cultures. You bring in a coach from another country, now you have to go to a draft. They say, no, I want that player because he's good. No, but you only have the 12th pick. Some of these international coaches look at you like your hair's on fire.
Right.
Because they don't understand that. Whereas the Landon Donovans of the world, the Josh Wolfs of the world, the Claudio Reynas of the world, the Tab Ramos of the world, they've grown up in this.
Okay.
So you just need to give them that opportunity.
As a coach, do you prefer something like the draft or do you prefer the open market?
I mean, there's not even a question. I think we've got to have an open market. But again, I understand why they do it because that's sports in this country. So you have to gear yourself to understand and to follow those rules. What I would prefer is promotion and relegation.
Yes.
No draft, going out and finding players and signing them. Obviously, any coach in the world, I don't know how Danny feels, would prefer that. But because we don't have that, the best people to move us forward are the people that have grown up in this. And that's why I continue to name the Tony Meolas and the Tab Ramoses and the Marcelo Balboas and the Jimmy Rooneys and all the guys that have grown up in our society that I would tell you that there's coaches that I know that are coaching in college that are extremely qualified to be in the professional level. I just wish they would be given the opportunity.
I think that just to finalize this coaching talk is one of the things that the U.S. has different from other countries because they have in every sport the college level where head coaches to be there, and it's completely different than being a head coach at the professional level. And go ahead.
No, sí, tienes razón. Yo creo que el tema de college, creo que muchos entrenadores deciden quedarse en college porque les da una estabilidad financiera a futuro. Trabajar en el profesional no es fácil. Hoy estás, si no tienes resultados, mañana no estás. Entonces, lógicamente, hay un crecimiento profesional trabajando en el nivel más arriba, pero en el college te da la estabilidad. Y yo creo que muchos deciden quedarse en college por eso, la estabilidad financiera, la familiar, la estructura laboral. En el caso del fútbol profesional es un riesgo, uno tiene que tomar y sobre todo por eso que lo decía Adrián, que la importancia de tener todos estos exjugadores que fueron parte de la selección nacional, que hoy en día se están arriesgando a buscar dentro del mundo profesional ser entrenadores. Pero hay un detalle importante y te lo voy a decir con toda propiedad porque yo soy instructor de entrenadores en Sudamérica. El entrenador puede llegar, tener el nombre y lanzarse a una aventura para entrenar, pero si no tienes la preparación y no tienes la estructura metodológica para poder llevar tus ideas a la cancha y transferir tus ideas, vas a tener que rodearte de muy buenos asistentes para poder tener la oportunidad de trabajar a ese nivel. Y yo creo que tener la imagen de Donovan, de Tab Ramos, de Giovanni Savarese, como él bien lo dijo, el mismo Tony Meola, que en algún momento entrenó, y muchos otros jugadores que hoy, o muchos exjugadores que están hoy como entrenadores, yo creo que va a ayudar mucho al fútbol norteamericano a darle una identidad a futuro dentro de lo que es el fútbol profesional.
Just real quick to cap that, I think right now one of the best coaches in the United States is Bob Bradley.
Yes.
Yeah.
But why has he been able to get to the level he has? Because he's left this country. He's went to coach in Egypt, which I'm sure the amount of pressure that he dealt with
in Europe
was ridiculous. He went to England and had to deal with a lot of pressure. So he prepared himself to now come back here and be as successful as he is. And everybody who talks about Bob talks about what a great job he had. But he's also gone through a lot of stuff to be able to get to, to the level that he's at now. Maybe that's not a bad thing. When I chose to go to Spain, it was the same thing. I wanted to get my UEFA licenses, and I wanted to experience something else. And when you're in another country and you're an American, you're not respected. You've got to earn people's respect.
Right.
And on top of that, you have to worry about if you lose a couple of games, you might get fired. If all of a sudden your team's in the bottom, you're facing relegation. What does that do? That makes you work, and that makes you get better. Because if you can it's very easy to handle it when you're on top.
Yeah.
How do coaches handle it when you're on the bottom and within 3 games you're in relegation? And now people are breathing down your necks because they're not so friendly. So that prepares you to be able to prepare your team and your players. Mm-hmm. So when you get to a World Cup qualifier against Trinidad and Tobago and you need to get a result, you can get a result
ready.
because
You're mentally prepared
for it. And that's what I think we're lacking as well. That's why I give so much credit to what Bob did, because he went to places where he was not comfortable. He went to Egypt, which I can imagine as an American has to be very, very difficult.
Difficult.
The amount of respect that I have for Bob, not only as one of my former coaches, because I played for him when I was young, but also what he's done at the national team in Europe, and now coming back to the MLS. I mean, it's an example to follow. I think it's great, and I hope he can continue to do the things that he's doing, like Bruce Arena and himself, where they can continue to push these younger coaches that have played at a high level, forward into the professional game. So.
All right, vamos a cerrar esta conversación hablando de las eliminatorias de Norteamérica, de la CONCACAF. En papel se está mirando los primeros lugares y se mira que según México tiene control y puede calificar. Así como le dijiste, sin jugar bien, la estrategia es nomás calificar y luego preocuparse. ¿Crees que es lo que tiene que ser México ahorita o deberíamos estar preocupados por el nivel de juego que está mostrando?
A ver, yo voy a opinar y después Dani puede también opinar. Nosotros no estamos adentro de la presión que debe sentir ese entrenador y el cuerpo técnico y los jugadores. Nosotros no estamos ahí, así que opinar sería faltarle respeto a ellos. Lo que sí yo puedo decir que si yo estoy en esa posición, mi primer objetivo es clasificar el equipo. Y después, cuando yo tengo ese año o 6 meses, 8 meses para trabajar, puedo trabajar con tranquilidad. Yo tuve un amigo, un compañero, una persona que trabajó conmigo, que es Juan Carlos Osorio, que fue el último entrenador de la Selección de México.
Sí.
Y yo tuve la buena suerte de poder compartir tiempo con él cuando él vino a España. Y él me contaba la presión que sentía con la federación y la gente de México era brutal. Entonces, me imagino que Tata debería estar siguiendo. Entonces, nosotros no estamos ahí y no sentimos la presión que ellos ven día a día. Pero sí, si nosotros estaríamos ahí, mi objetivo es a clasificar. Y después podemos arreglar los errores. Pero vamos a primero clasificarnos.
Perfecto. Dani.
No, coincido mucho con Adrián. El primer objetivo es clasificarse, sea como sea. Lógicamente, México y Estados Unidos en el papel, teóricamente, deberían ser los primeros 2 clasificados, aunque ha sido una eliminatoria complicada, ¿no? En todos los sentidos. Le ha tocado a Estados Unidos salir a jugar en países como Panamá y no ha podido. Pero de alguna forma creo yo que la lógica dice que estos 2 equipos van a clasificar. Ahora bien, lo que dice él, ¿cómo nos preparamos nosotros? ¿Cómo se preparan esos equipos para el Mundial? Porque el Mundial es otra historia, es otro nivel, vienen países muy, muy bien preparados de Europa, de Sudamérica. Entonces ahí es donde está la clave. ¿Podrán estos países mejorar su participación en el Mundial? Ahí es donde tienen que apuntar. De todas maneras, esta eliminatoria, yo creo que viene un partido muy importante, inclusive que hay un ambiente ahí medio raro porque hay un jugador que viene jugando con Estados Unidos, Ricardo Pepi, que iba a jugar con
sí.
México y decidió jugar con Estados Unidos y lógicamente...
And he's been lighting it up.
Así es. Pero bueno, en el caso de México sí te puedo decir que, porque también conozco gente dentro del cuerpo técnico, Adrián los pudo conocerlos, el caso de Rodolfo Paladín, el preparador físico trabajó en Venezuela muchos años, y ellos están muy confiados de que México va a ir levantando el nivel poco a poco en estas eliminatorias, y bueno, ya está de primer lugar a 3 puntos de Estados Unidos, ¿no?
Perfecto, entonces es llegar lo mayor objetivo. Ahora, la última pregunta que tengo es para calificar. Tiene México que otro obstáculo que viene siendo la sanción que le puso FIFA, jugar sin afición, en los próximos 2 partidos, si mal no estoy, ¿cree que algo así es una distracción para los equipos o les va a poder enfocar en el partido sin preocupar a lo que va a hacer la gente in the stands?
So I'll talk in English and then Danny can talk in Spanish just to keep it moving. But look, it's a difficult situation, right? The way our culture is today, you need to take everybody's feelings into consideration. So I totally understand. I think there's no place for racism or anything like that in our culture right now. The only thing I would say is what it does is it puts more pressure on the players and the coaching staff, who at the end of the day have nothing to do with what the people do when they pay money to come to a game, because they feel that they can say whatever they want. Mm-hmm. How do I, as a coach, or Danny as a player, or someone else on the coaching staff, control what 60,000 people are doing in the stands when they paid their money to go for the ticket? I don't know how you control that. You can sanction the federation and the team and the players, but you're doing a disservice to the players who have absolutely nothing to do with it. Because if I'm a player on the team or I'm a coach and I say, please don't do that anymore, but then we go and play bad, they're going to be mad and they're going to say what they're going to say.
Yep.
That is out of the players and the coaching staff and the federation's control. So they need to find a different way to be able to either find a resolution with all this, because it's something that's uncontrollable. If I can tell you how many times I was coaching in Spain and some of the people said things to me about being American and my mother and all this kind of stuff, you'd cringe. But at the end of the day, I just had to get on with it. Was it right? No. But they pay their own money, their hard-earned money, they go to the games, maybe they're taking their frustrations out, but you can't take that out on the players. What I would say is the message has to come across from the players and the federation. Please don't do it, because it could affect us. And at the end of the day, they probably have done that. Mm-hmm. But who's to control 60, 70, 80,000 people? And not only that, let's just say you're going there and you support the United States, mm-hmm. but you speak Spanish. And now all of a sudden, because Mexico's beating the United States, you say a derogatory comment in Spanish. But you're there with the United States.
Yeah.
But they might take that out of Mexico. How do you know who's supporting who?
Exactly.
So at the top of the day, maybe it's a Spanish person that comes from Argentina that says something that has nothing to do with Mexico. And now you're going to sanction Mexico when they have nothing to do with it? Mm. What do? You say to everyone, oh, hi, you're coming to the game. Where are you from? So it's just a slippery situation. And it's terrible that they do it. But I just don't see how you can control it, because you might be punishing someone that has nothing to do with it.
Right.
No, yo creo que él ya lo dijo todo. Solo quería adherir que es importante que este tipo de fenómenos que están ocurriendo a nivel mundial, porque es un tema cultural, es lo que decía él, es la cultura, o sea, eso es parte del país. Entonces, claro, que se vaya educando mucho más a la población, sobre todo al fanático que va al estadio, para que entienda de que sí puede haber, va a afectar posiblemente al equipo. No sé hasta qué punto pudiera llegar las sanciones de FIFA si esto continúa, pero ya vemos que hay una suspensión de 3 partidos, tengo entendido, a puerta cerrada. Entonces eso, desde el punto de vista financiero, sí afecta a la federación.
Sí. Porque no nomás los boletajes, porque los boletajes sí es mucho, sí, es los concessions, es donde agarran la mayoría del dinero.
Todo lo que proviene de ese partido, la
Ajá.
parte de merchandising, todo lo que tiene que ver con el partido y la parte financiera. Entonces, claro, es un tema cultural. Creo que tienen que hacerse campañas en el país para poder entender que más allá de lo que es la cultura mexicana, para lo que es el partido de fútbol, tienen que entender que puede traer unas consecuencias muy graves para la selección, que inclusive, si esto continúa en los próximos partidos más adelante, no vería con mal ojo que FIFA pueda tomar la decisión inclusive de sacarlos de alguna competencia internacional, ¿no?
Sí, as clear as it makes it. Si siguen así, they're punishing the fans, pero indirectamente al equipo, pero sí. Como es imposible controlar a la gente. Quizás algo así tan drástico, maybe get across, but it's going to be a lot of stuff for something that can be very simple. Wow. It has been absolutely great to get to know you guys. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Para despedirnos del entrenador Adrián y associate coach Danny, nomás quiero sus predicciones para este partido México-USA. A ver, ¿quién se anima? Danny.
Yo creo que es difícil predecir. Yo digo que el que predice en el fútbol no sabe de fútbol. Pero bueno, yo voy a decir, para decir un resultado, un empate. Un empate para quedar ahí balance, ¿no? Yo creo que hay un empate sería adecuado.
So before I give my prediction, there's a couple things I want to say real quick. Number
Okay.
one, shout out to my daughter. I miss you very much. I love you. To all my family in Florida, in New York, everywhere. To my friends back in New York, I miss you guys. To Sandra, I hope you're recovering from your back surgery. We miss you. And obviously to the whole ownership group who's put this whole thing together. So if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here today.
Yes.
So a big thank you to Troy, to Yuval, and to everybody else, Marcelo, everybody else involved. We're going to continue to work hard to make this thing successful. And I say it's going to be, I'm going to keep my predictions to myself, so avoid all kinds of trouble. Thank you guys, and thanks for having us. It was a
Déjate
pleasure,
solo.
and soon you'll be hearing about our player signing. So stay tuned, and God bless.
Entonces ahí estamos ya para despedir al entrenador y associate coach. Muchísimas gracias. No se olviden de darle like, echen sus comentarios, sus preguntas para próximos episodios que tenemos. Todo lo que quieran saber de Valle United FC, aquí se lo vamos a traer en este podcast. Muchas gracias a Franco que está atrás en los controles, a todo el equipo de Frecuencia Alterna Arizona Deportiva y por supuesto a todos los que hacen posible este proyecto de Valle United FC Podcast. Yo soy Daniel Orona y con esto me despido. Muchísimas gracias a todos y nos veremos en la próxima.